call to order the Board of Commissioners work session meeting for October 17, 2017. 1717, that's nice. So we will join us for the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Salute the flag of the state of New Mexico. It is the symbol of perfect friendship among the united cultures. First item on the agenda today is approval of the work session agenda. Madam Manager, are there any changes need to come on the work session agenda? I've not been drinking yet.
No, sir.
No.
Chair, I move to approve the agenda for the work session.
I'll second. There's a motion and a second to approve the work session agenda. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. The general purpose of the county work session is to inform the Grant County Board of Commissioners of the agenda items that will be addressed at the next regular meeting, and for the department heads and other elected officials to communicate to the commissioners in regard to matters in their respective departments. In accordance with Grant County Resolution 1701, we welcome the public to attend county work sessions. However, there will be no public input permitted at this meeting. So at this time, I will turn the meeting over to County Manager Webb to review the regular meeting agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First item on your agenda is the approval of the minutes, which should have been in your packets for review. Next item is financial reports. Approve, disapprove October 11th, 2017 expenditure report. Linda, would you please go through that?
Yes, Charlene. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we have an expenditure report for approval or disapproval. The total sum of this report is $2,162,647.81. Included in this total is AP checks totaling $1,758,015.55. And some of the highlights of those expenses of $10,000 and above are the following. I have a check to Ascent Aviation in the amount of $15,670.77, and this is for the August jet fuel. A check to the New Mexico Human Services Division in the amount of $90,877.59, and this is for the first quarter contribution for the safety net care pool. A check to Train U.S. Incorporated in the amount of $76,143.80, and this is for HVAC parts and replacements at the conference center. A check issued to Grant County that is from Correcaminos for the May 2017 fiscal agent services reimbursement, and that check was for $43,434.99. A check to Fuel Center Plus in the amount of $15,453.63, and this is for the August 2017 off-road diesel fuel. A check to Juniper Advisory LLC in the amount of $10,000, and this is for advisory services. A check to Wagner Equipment in the amount of $87,545, and this is for a backhoe. A check to the New Mexico County Insurance Authority in the amount of $15,000, and this is for a deductible for law enforcement. A check to Southwest Solid Waste Authority in the amount of $47,692.75, and this is for the August 2017 tipping monthly billing fees, the tipping fees. A check to Zacaton Construction in the amount of $36,323.16, and this is a progress payment for the Alice Missile Fire Station. A check to Gila Regional Medical Center in the amount of $80,860.86, and this was for the August 27 indigent claims, which has been approved by the board at the last commission meeting. A check to Summit Food Services in the amount of $44,508.74, and this is for July and August inmate meals. A check to Western Builders in the amount of $87,595.40, and this is a progress payment for the Santa Rita Fire Station. and a check to White Sands Construction in the amount of $251,207.52, and this is a progress payment for the Tucasa project. And also included in that sum of $2 million is payroll checks for pay period 19 and 20, totaling $404,632.26.
Is there any questions or concerns regarding the expenditure report?
I have a question. The Correcaminos payment, I wonder if you could explain how that works. I understand it was a payment from them to us.
We pay it out of their funds since we're the fiscal agent, so it's just for keeping an audit trail on it. They're paying us for the services, for administrative fees.
So that, I guess that's what I'm getting at. We haven't seen this, certainly not this quantity regularly. This one says May 2017. It's not a monthly amount, right?
No, actually, I think it's for May, June, and July. I think it's per quarter instead of month.
So,
It's in an average of about $23,000 per month. So, yeah,
Okay, that we get back from them for providing administrative services.
correct. That would be for the services that we have at the road department,
Oh,
for
Not just
and-
administration.
Correct.
It's all that maintenance and stuff.
Yes, and,
Okay.
yeah, that's what it includes.
Okay, that makes sense. And does some of that not go in as an in-kind match that we have to provide?
We do an actual, and this is the in-kind portion of it, but we also do a match, a cash match.
It's a combination.
Okay.
and some of that's going to have to change. You sit on the board, right? But, yeah, they're wanting us to itemize all that now.
Yeah, we caught that.
Until,
So this is the old style.
Correct.
Okay,
oh, wait.
thank you.
So there's 4 of these expenditures that get my attention, and I don't know what can be said about all 4 of them, but I'm going to bring them up and be glad if you could say what you can say. Train USA, US $76,000 for the HVAC replacement parts. So instead of me saying what I know, which may not be allowed to be said, would you say what we can say on that?
That was a replacement of the units that went down. So that was replacing, and I can't tell you how many units it was, but I don't recall.
And are those the ones that were potentially damaged?
Those were the units that were replaced,
Okay.
that were,
Okay, we can talk about that later. The New Mexico Insurance Authority for $15,000.
that is a deductible. Like, you have to meet a deductible on yours. I can't tell you what claim it was for. It was
Okay.
either the sheriff's department or detention, since it says law enforcement. We didn't itemize out what claim it was for, but if you need to know that, I can get that information to you.
Okay. And another reoccurring one is the Gila Regional Medical Center, the indigent claims, $80,000. I don't know, I realize that some of that's beyond our control, but is there something that we can do to keep those items manageable?
As I've explained in the past, as Tim brought this up, our hope to manage this better is the new medical provider that's in the jail, because these claims are inmate medical claims that are sent from the facility to the hospital. We're hoping that with better medical coverage at the jail, that it will reduce some of the trips to the ER that constitute this amount.
And when, are they currently there now then?
Or is,
The new provider?
no, their contract begins December 1.
Okay.
And Commissioner, that does come from a sole and separate gross receipts tax. It's a 1/8. It can't be spent for anything except for that.
Okay.
So we use it for our indigent and other indigent. I don't know exactly how much other indigent there is, but the majority of that was detention center.
Correct, and
So we can
so,
talk about that.
and we can go back through and I can explain indigent to you another time if you'd like, to see
Okay,
the
sure.
crowd from being bored to tears. But, I mean, you have to pay those claims, no matter what, you have to pay them. And,
Oh, yeah, I understand that. I just,
But-
and I like what you've been working on to keep them manageable. So hopefully this new service provider can help with that.
And moving forward, I would like to bring those indigent claims back to the county for approval rather than the way it's been done here in the past. So there's some other changes on the horizon, so we can better manage that.
Okay.
That's the goal.
And the final one being Summit Food Service. Could you explain where that money comes from?
Summit Food Service is the food service for inmate meals, and that comes out of the corrections fund.
Okay.
Paid for from corrections,
Okay.
and that's the meals that we are required to.
So we're reimbursed for that?
No,
Oh, okay.
no, that's the cost of running a jail.
Okay. So no more bread and water, it's...
No, sir, they have a minimum caloric intake that we have to provide for them each
Okay.
day, so that's what you get to pay.
Okay, thanks.
2 months worth. Any other questions? Okay, moving on to new business. Item C, Mr. Dan Maxwell has requested to be on the agenda to discuss some concerns he has regarding the aggregate pit operations at the Hurley Pit. Item D, approve, disapprove insurance plan change. I apologize for the delay. This was added to your packet late. I was working on the numbers to make sure that what I put in front of you I felt was the best option moving forward to save money as well as provide the best option for the employees.
So if we push that insurance plan and change down there at the bottom, does that pop up?
It'll pop up, yes, the summary that I sent you. So back when we started working on the preliminary budget and final budget approval, we talked about the huge increase in premiums that we saw last year and looked at moving to the state plan. We explored that option, and moving from the current Presbyterian plan to the state Blue Cross Blue Shield HMO plan. And what I was looking at was moving, currently the employees have a choice between Presbyterian HMO and PPO. The PPO is considerably more expensive than the HMO, right, Robert? So we moved it to where they would have one choice with Blue Cross Blue Shield HMO, and that was that calculated to about a $322,000 savings. So because Mr. Rydesky's managed our program for the last several years, and we felt it fair to give him the same opportunity to meet those numbers. He's actually met and exceeded the state plan and numbers as far as benefits. So my recommendation is moving to a Blue Cross Blue Shield EPO plan. The cost savings for that calculate to approximately $342,000. Mr. Rydesky also reduced his fees for a savings of about $17,760. The EPO plan matches the Blue Cross Blue Shield state HMO plan, but it allows the employee to see any Blue Cross Blue Shield facility or doctor in the country and be in network, where the HMO plan would not provide that. So that's my recommendation, and Robert's here to answer any questions you can, or that you may have. I can't talk today. But I think that's probably the best option moving forward, giving the employees what I feel is better coverage than what they have now, and it saves the county a tremendous amount of money. So you want to fix anything that I just screwed up trying to explain insurance plans?
Good morning, Mr. Rydesky. How are you today?
Hey, Mr. Caston, how are you? How would I have to push a white button? Oh, now can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear myself too. Good morning,
Good morning.
Mr. Commissioner. How are you?
Good.
Good.
You want to start and then we'll ask questions?
I don't know where to start. She had a pretty succinct explanation of, I think, where we're at. What kind of questions do you have? And that way I can...
I got one.
Okay.
So I'm glad we're looking at not going to the state, because I was here the last time we were with the state, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we had a big buyout to get out of state when they went up.
There is a buyout. I may be incorrect, but I believe, and Charlene may know the specifics, but I think it's the average, we call it a contingent liability in this business. And what it does is, because the state is partially self-funded, what happens is you have a buyout to pay for the last 2 or 3 months of claims. And I believe that the way that the state does it is they average the last 3 months of claims, and you pay one month of that. I did a calculation. If that's the way it's calculated, it's over $100,000 to, if you ever wanted to leave again. And Charlene, do you remember? And you wouldn't remember because it was before your time. I think, wasn't it 70,000, 70, 80,000, something to move out? Wasn't it something like that? We can look at that number, but that was when John was here.
So the EPO plan does exceed the HMO plan?
Absolutely.
That the state was offering?
Yeah, the numbers, and I don't know if this is in your packet because I haven't seen it, but this is a little bit confusing. So if you look on the internet or...
That's health insurance.
Yeah, I know. So I'm going to make this as quick as I can, but if you look online, what you would have with the state HMO plan is all of the doctors that Blue Cross and Blue Shield contracts with in New Mexico. And so that's how they limit that.
That's the HMO.
Yes, but here's the thing. It's still, the way Blue Cross does it, it's still PPO doctors. Okay, so if you were to look and see which doctors they would be, it would be PPO doctors in New Mexico. If you need to get out and go to Mayo or MD Anderson, you would have to get permission from the medical director to do that. Okay, what we've created, so just in a nutshell, primary care providers, this is Blue Cross's information that I got this week. They have 6,124 providers in New Mexico. With what is on the table for all employees, it would be 680,500 physicians that would be in network, because you would look at any Blue Cross and Blue Shield PPO physician in any state and in foreign countries. Okay, so here's another thing. If you guys are looking for, if you poke around the internet tonight and you say, okay, I want to look at Blue Cross of Texas, don't go to BCBSNM to find those doctors. You would go to BCBSTX. Assuming they're PPO doctors in Texas, you can go. So when Doug, I'm on a plan very similar. When Doug got hurt in his car accident, we sent him to a brain specialist at UT Southwestern in Dallas. In network, it's all good. So if you guys are looking, that's kind of how to poke around the system.
Since we're on this topic, that was the one question I had.
Okay.
Globally, it looks like the EPO has 100 times as many providers as the HMO.
Yes.
What about locally?
I don't know of anyone who's not a member currently, any physician.
And in any case, so really what I'm interested in is a comparison of the HMO to the EPO. If a physician were not part of one, would they also not be part of the other?
Probably
or
not.
Is it not identical?
Rephrase that question. Are you talking between the HMO and the PPO?
Correct. The HMO and what I'm calling the EPO, because that's what's in my
Okay, so
briefing here.
I'm not completely sure I understand the question.
Sure. Okay. Globally, sounds like there's absolutely no comparison, right?
There's not.
EPO is vastly preferable. Most of our employees are going to be more concerned about local services than global.
So what you're going to look at, I think I understand. We are not looking at HMO contracts because Blue Cross kind of did away with them. So it's really an oddity why they even call it an HMO. So when you go online, it's hard to find HMO doctors. You can find them typically in state plans, okay? And that's why you see them. But on a commercial plan, the EPO doctor is actually the PPO. So what EPO means is exclusive provider organization. Where you come into the distinction is if there is a non-network doctor, if you choose to go to a non-network doctor, if it's not an emergency and you choose to go to a non-network doctor, and there are some out there, Blue Cross won't pay, okay?
Under the EPO.
Under the EPO, okay?
And under the competitor, the HMO, even though I know that language may be outdated, under the competing proposal, would DCBS pay something?
It depends. If you just had people in their HMO product, it would only pay if you went to actually a PPO doctor in New Mexico, and it wouldn't pay anything else. So that is the delineation. Now, if you go to a PPO, which is not really on the table, I don't believe it's necessary. I mean, we've had Gila Regional with EPO for a long, long time. If you went with a PPO, there are ways they will pay a small amount if you go to if you choose to go to an out-of-network doctor. Typically, you double your deductible, you double your coinsurance, and you double your out-of-pocket expense, typically, and then that doctor has the option to balance bill you. So typically, people shy away from that.
So, as far as the selection of providers locally,
Yes.
your original answer sounded like was you're not aware of differences.
I don't know of any doctor that is not in the EPO network.
Is there not one provider that takes cash only?
There's one doctor that may not be in the network, and it may be a cash-only bill.
Yeah, I think there's one cash only guy. He's not going to take the other one
He's
either.
not taking that, and my point is the difference. That's exactly right. He's not taking either.
Right, and so what people are on now, being insured, couldn't access him anyway.
Right.
Right?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So normally when you get a cost savings of $340,000, I guess that's annual cost savings,
Yes.
you would expect an inferior product. So it looks like we're getting a better product with that savings. So you've done a good job of pointing out the positives. What are the negatives?
Not much.
Well, I just sitting here looking through the options. Do you have the options there in front of you?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the deductible drops for a family by $500, right?
Yeah, I'm just asking, what's the catch? No.
There's air coverage. Huh?
I looked hard for a catch.
yeah,
Okay.
she drilled me for a catch. So, just in a nutshell, one of the reasons that we were able to lower the rates, and one of the reasons is why I'm on staff here, I call myself on staff because we do a lot of work for you guys, is because we look for opportunities with claims data. Your claims data with Presbyterian had been kind of expensive to Presbyterian. They didn't make any money on you in the last 2 years, which is my job. That's not my job to make them make money. That's why they put a 29% rate increase on us. When I dissect the data, there was some claims out there that are not reoccurring. Okay? So when Blue Cross looks at that data, we can shock some claims out that Presbyterian wants to keep in. So their methodology on an incumbent carrier is different than the methodology with a new carrier that doesn't have to pay for those. There was a couple that were pretty substantial. So therein lies the opportunities that we as brokers look for.
Okay, thank you.
That's why he earns his money. Any other questions?
He probably got tired of hearing
You were great to work for. Thank you. Thanks.
I just have one comment, and that is, I really appreciate the fact that we're able to continue to do business locally on our insurance. Really want to, I think we all have a commitment to doing as much business as we can locally, so thank you very much.
Thank you for that.
All right. Guess we can move on.
We need to add a new item under new business, and it will be the approval of an naloxone use policy for the Sheriff's Department. Sheriff, would you like to just brief them on this piece?
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. What this is they passed a new bill at the state legislature in regards to us utilizing naloxone to prevent overdose or how people come out of an overdose. So in regards to that, we had to create a policy. I've already sent all my staff through training, and so we're all certified already to use the naloxone. We just needed to implement the policy on the use of it, and they've been trained, and we were given some of the naloxone by the organization that put the training on. So I just wanted to make sure that we got this policy in so we can start utilizing it if we need it. But it is a mandate from the state that was put in for us to have all our staff carrying naloxone.
It's a nasal spray, correct?
The training we went through is a nasal spray, yes, sir.
What did that training consist of?
To be honest with you, I didn't go through it, but pretty much on just how to determine when they're under an overdose and how to utilize the nasal spray to bring them out of that overdose.
What, do you know how long it was? Was it intensive? Was it more than one day? Or?
No, it was a 2-hour training that was put on.
It's pretty simple then.
It was pretty simple, yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. I would think it would take longer to find it, to be able to ascertain whether or not they're on an overdose of some type of opioid to give the nasal spray. I mean, just from an outsider looking in.
Hopefully that was the main part of the training.
Well, and I think that follows on to my question is, so this is a state-mandated, this policy is in response to a state mandate. Is the state providing funding for these kits?
At the moment, there is a grant that we have applied for to try and get some funding to help us purchase the naloxone. So we're still in the process of doing that, but during the training, the instructor did supply some to our staff already. So we do have some on hand, but we are still working on trying to get it to where we get funding to supply it.
So when you say some, then are you saying that you have one of these Pelican cases with all this stuff in it in each patrol vehicle, or would somebody have to call to, if a deputy was on a call, would they have to call to get it? How would it?
We got a few. We didn't get one for everybody. They gave us a few, so what we're going to be doing is switching them out, and that's what's in the policy in regards to passing it on to the other deputy as they relieve each other at shift change. You know, because we can't leave them. They're specific on leaving them in heat and stuff, so we can't leave them solely in the unit in the summer months and probably in the winter. So that's why we have to be transferring it back and forth. But once we get funding to be able to supply everybody with one, then we will.
And do you know what these cost?
The last time that I had mentioned it was like $70 a piece.
And so that's kind of where I'm headed. So the kit, I assume, then the Lure-Lock syringes or whatever it is, that's the part that's $70 a piece. So is it? So there's 2 doses in a kit then, essentially. Okay. And what if there is any doubt about whether the person's overdosing or whether they're not actually overdosing on one of these opioids? Is the naloxone harmful to that person if that's not what's really happening?
From the training, it's apparently not. It's only supposed to be able to help reverse the overdose. It's not supposed to cause anything else. But I'm not an expert on it, so I couldn't really answer you truthfully on that. So, but that's something that was brought up in the training, and so that's pretty much what we got to go with.
And how much time? What's the time frame that you can save someone if they're overdosing with naloxone?
As soon as you inject it, it should do the reversal, but there's not a.
But I mean, from the time they start overdosing to death, how much time do you have to get in there?
That I don't know.
Because am I correct in remembering that a lot of opioid overdoses are rather instantaneous?
Yes. Some are, and it just depends. I mean, it depends on the situation and how long they've been out when you administer the dose.
And how many opioid ODs have we had in this county in the last 6 months?
As far as I can recall, within the county that we have handled, possibly maybe 2 or 3, but that doesn't, I don't know what the statistics are in the city. But countywide, as far as what we deal with, that I'm aware of, possibly 2 or 3 that we've dealt with.
Okay. Thank you, Sheriff.
Okay, any other questions? Let's move on.
Moving on to agreements, item E, well, E on your agenda. Approve, disapprove First Amendment to Agreement Number A1703 between County of Grant, New Mexico and Hazair Incorporated. This is a 3-month extension to the contract we have with Hazair to prepare our county hazard mitigation plan. And Gilbert indicates that this is due to a delay in some information from FEMA. And that's all I can tell you at this point. 3 months, I believe it was. He told me 3 months. Yeah. Next item, F. Approve, disapprove agreement A1736, grant agreement with New Mexico's Department of Transportation for the Buckle Up, Click It, or Ticket and the Selective Traffic Enforcement Program, 100 Days and Nights of Summer, for use by the Grant County Sheriff's Department. These are annual grants that the Sheriff's Department applies for traffic enforcement programs. Total funding for both programs is $5,550 that's used for overtime. Is that correct? Any questions so far? Item G, approve, disapprove agreement number A1737, contract renewal for county manager. Contract is up for your review. It's been included in your packet. I had no changes. Item H, approve, disapprove agreement A1738, contract renewal for county attorney. Abby has submitted her proposal for your review.
Are we going to talk about them in the executive session?
Yes, they're on executive session for you to discuss and evaluate.
So, just for the record, the agreement actually should be changed to reflect Burgess instead of Robinson.
Good point. I keep forgetting.
Any other questions, comments? Moving on, item I, approve, disapprove agreement A1739, professional services agreement with the County of Grant and Rydesky and Company. If you choose to go with the plan that we just proposed, we would need to renew our professional service agreement with Rydesky. In the past, he had proposed a flat fee. He has agreed to reduce those fees to 2% of the premium, and it's a cost savings of about $17,000. So I beat him up on that too.
Normally brokers make about 4%, don't they?
On the research I did, it looked approximately to be about 4%. He agreed to reduce those fees to 2%, which saved us $17,770, somewhere in that neighborhood.
What that does is it evens it out. He doesn't have to take the risk of less employees or more employees or people not taking. It just makes it flat for him and flat for us, so it takes the risk out.
Item J, approve, disapprove agreement A1740, an agreement between Grant County and Boutique Air Incorporated for the storage and parking of 3 rental vehicles and use of the terminal for rental car concession, collectively known as the premises. I'm going to let Abby go through this since she drafted it and worked with Rebecca.
Mr. Chairman, actually, it's exactly what Charlene said. It's not very complicated. We're very excited that we're possibly going to have this lease put in place, so we'll have 3 rental vehicles out there instead of, we do have the services in town that will deliver cars out there, but these will actually be out there. And then we'll also be providing, as part of this lease, their space at the counter to do their concession. And this is sort of just a trial. We're going to see how it goes. It's only a year term, and Rebecca was very helpful in that she has more experience in entering these kinds of contracts, so she had ideas for how to set the rental rate, and she communicated with an affiliation that she knows of.
You mean for the ground?
Huh?
For the ground. The rental rate for the land we're renting.
Correct, sorry.
I
Not
thought you
for the
meant
cars.
I was like,
That'll be
a
their
little
deal.
too far in the weeds.
Anyway, please let me know if you have questions about it. It's pretty straightforward.
You know, the other rental companies have been asked to put cars out there and we've offered them the same opportunity, and they've all declined, and they won't take a car out there until you land. So maybe this will make them step up a little bit, and I feel as though if we give one company, Boutique, the opportunity to lease some property out there in the future, I don't think this is exclusive by any means, right?
It is non-exclusive.
Yeah. If
Correct, I should say.
the other two people that rent cars in town feel as though that's something they want to do, they have the same opportunity. We're not overriding on them, but we're not playing favorites. But this one chose to put cars at the airport, which is good for the county.
Thanks for explaining that. I'm concerned about that myself. And I have an additional question. Does Boutique Air have any experience renting cars?
I'm not sure.
I have no idea.
Rebecca apparently is confident that they can handle this.
Rebecca's actually been the one that's been in communication with them. I think it was their idea, wasn't it? It was. So I don't know why they would come up with it if they didn't already do this somewhere. But we can ask them if they have any experience.
Okay. Because worse than having to, wait for delivery of the vehicle is getting a vehicle and then it breaks down on you. So hopefully they
Well, we do
are...
have requirements in here that they have proper vehicles that are maintained and clean and everything. So
All right.
hopefully they don't breach that. I don't think they will.
What's the audit process for that?
Actually, we can inspect. We can go onto the premises, so Rebecca could go over and just take a look at them.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Boutique Air has done, I think, a fabulous job with their airplanes. So I have reason to think they can probably handle it with cars. But just checking.
When they proposed it.
And they buy a lot of jet fuel from us. A lot of jet fuel.
Any other questions or comments?
No.
Moving on to resolutions, item K, approve, disapprove resolution R-1748, approving the development and implementation of an asset management plan for Grant County. This is a resolution that's required by the New Mexico Finance Authority for us to adopt in order to be reimbursed for completion of the asset management plan. Very similar to the process for the grant we received for the comp plan. So we adopt this resolution saying that we are going to complete the asset management plan according to their rules and regulations and implement it, and then they will reimburse us for our portion. Any questions?
We're in process on that?
Yes, we had our first meeting 2 weeks ago, and so they are working with Earl to get some information, working with Daniel, the mapper in the planning department, and we're in the collecting data currently. We'll meet again in approximately a month. Isn't that right, Earl?
Just briefly explain exactly what an asset management plan is for everybody.
So an asset management plan is a tool that the county can use to effectively manage our assets. Primarily, it would be our road network. It would determine, you start out by determining what the current status of that is. Is it in good condition, excellent condition, poor condition? And then you determine a maintenance schedule or replacement schedule based upon the current state of that asset.
So the assets are mainly roads in this plan?
Mainly roads in this plan. We will work with the contractor. They're going to design the plan so that we can take the model that they're using for this, and then Jason can use it for our buildings and other buildings and properties in addition to roads. So this particular plan and the grant applies particularly to roads, streets, wastewater systems, water systems, drainage. So we primarily just have roads, so that's why we're targeting roads with this. But we will be able to use this information and use it for the entire, for everything.
So is Jason participating in the process even though he's not part of the roads department, so he can learn about it?
He sat in on the first meeting to get an idea of how it worked, but I'm not going to have him sit through and listen to roads. When we get to the part where they implement, showing us how it all ties together and how the database works, then yes, he will be involved. But this was about a 2-hour meeting, and I didn't see a reason for him to.
So this includes a database in which we can keep up with these assets and
Yes.
in real time?
Yes, so as you know, Earl chips hill roads, then we go in and we update this plan to make sure that we stay, and it'll give him a guide to say, okay, in 3 years we need to do this, in 5 years we need to look at these roads. His bridges, culverts, cattle guards, those things will also be included in this. Like Tyrone sidewalks, the ADA compliance, all of that is included in this plan.
So we can prioritize things like ADA projects and...
Correct. And the other benefit to having a current asset management plan, as we're applying for more state-funded grants, federal-funded grants, particularly CDB and Colonias, they want you to have, well, you actually are beginning to lose points on your application if you do not have a current asset management plan. So they want you to have this in place, and you have to be able to identify that, yes, this is a need, it's in our ICIP, it's also on our asset management plan. So that's one of the reasons the New Mexico Finance Authority does these grants, is to encourage you to have current asset management plans.
I'm curious, what is the New Mexico Environmental Center that came up with this plan template?
The
I
reason,
can't find it on Google.
that's a good question. I know the Environment Department is involved in these asset management plans when it comes to the wastewater, water facilities, those sort of things, but I'll have to do some research on that.
Where did you find
Can't
that?
answer that.
It's in the very long resolution title, and it's also in
The government.
Section 2B.
Use of the New Mexico Environmental Center.
They're the ones who came up with this, apparently.
It's a manual that they refer to for the wastewater, the water, those sort of things. That's, Aaron did mention that in our meeting, but I can't tell you exactly what that manual says or
Yeah.
why it's a requirement from NMFA, but it is.
So
I will get that answer for you.
they've decided that methodology is their preferred methodology for creating the asset management plan.
And then
I'm so lost.
They're all tiny now. It's a flood.
You know what? I'm trying.
It's a staff
You're doing a great job.
Bam, there it's back. Stop it.
Item L, approve, disapprove resolution R-1749, a resolution of support and financial commitment for Corey Camino's transportation services for fiscal year 2018. Kim was supposed to be here to explain this to you today. Maybe she's confused and will be here on Thursday. But what this is a resolution that she submits that the county's agreeing to its in-kind and cash match contribution of $220,000, and that is a combination of the cash and the in-kind, which is, the in-kind is what you just approved, and it equates to a total of $220,000 per year.
Are these federal fiscal years or state?
Federal fiscal years, because it's federal money, so it's
Maybe,
October.
I wonder if it should say, I would appreciate it if it said federal fiscal year, just because I'm so accustomed to thinking in terms of our fiscal year.
Okay.
The other thing is that it does specifically say it's a cash match of $220,000, not cash and in-kind.
Cash match and in-kind.
It says with a cash match of...
Yours says different than what mine says on the computer.
So the correct one is on your electronic device, because I didn't like the wording of 220,000 of cash match. So, I revised that to say a total of 220,000 of cash match and in-kind, because it's not 220,000 of cash, and I figured you guys would freak if you saw 220,000 of cash, which is not accurate, so I changed that language.
Great, thank you, we were freaking.
Well, I would have expected you to, so.
So the correct wording is 220,000 of cash match and in-kind?
Cash and in-kind.
Well, it says that in my binder, so I must have got a new updated version.
There you go, all right.
So we're taking your books away from you next time, so.
I know, is this computer thing a trick to throw us off our game?
No, no.
Not that we have a game.
Trying to
but-
broaden your horizons.
Until it all gets a little bitty like that.
Here's the tip. You can
That's what I was thinking.
Well, first you have to have the password to get in it, so.
Okay, moving on. Item M, approve, disapprove resolution R-1750, a resolution of support and financial commitment for Corey Camino's transportation services for fiscal year 2019. Same thing, but she wanted it for both years. And Randy indicates she'll be here on Thursday to answer your questions.
And so what's about federal fiscal?
Yes, and we can make that change, so we'll take care of that before Thursday. Item N, approve, disapprove resolution R-1751, a resolution of Grand County, New Mexico, in support of a proposal to include the Hart Bar property in the United States Forest Service priority list for the Land and Water Conservation Fund in fiscal years 2018 and 2019. Commissioner Edwards brought this forward, and I believe that Commissioner Brown has worked on this as well, so I'll turn this over to you.
You want to go ahead? Since you made the maps.
Okay. So I have given each of you a couple of maps. Trails advocates brought this to my attention. I don't know who brought it to Commissioner Edwards' attention. The Hart Bar Ranch used to extend over 1 million acres. It was enormous. From the cliff dwellings down to Lake Roberts, basically. The part of the Hart Bar Ranch that I know is the Hart Bar Wilderness area up by the cliff dwellings, and at first I was confused what these people were asking. This is not that part. There's another section, 466 acres, so not a full section, down by Lake Roberts. And the maps that you've got show you where that is. You can see it follows Sapio Creek. It is the orange section, and in one map you have the different parcels identified, and in the other you just have solid orange to make it easier to see what we're talking about. The Meadow Creek comes in from the south on that section that extends south, and Sapio Creek, goes along that. Apparently, the owner is not willing to sell only some of these parcels. It's an all-or-nothing offer. Which in my mind is too bad, because I think some of these are high priority for government purchase, and others would be better left in private hands, in my view. I think it's possible that if we're able to work with the Forest Service on this purchase, that the Forest Service could decide that it doesn't want to manage all of these parcels, and it might turn them around. But I have not had any discussions about that yet. To private, exactly. So it's, again, 466 acres, and what the trail advocates are requesting, and what I agree with, is to ensure that these parcels are preserved, and that the access they represent to public lands is preserved, that we request the Forest Service purchase them. And then we deal with details later about which parcels might be best not in Forest Service.
Is this owned currently by the Nature Conservancy?
No, it's not, and I don't know the exact...
Private.
Yeah, it's private, exactly. I can't confirm
Or deny?
or deny that.
You just shocked I knew.
What's that?
I said, you just looked at me like I knew, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was having a side conversation, so if you already said this, my apologies ahead of time. But what we did talk about was the idea would be, our interest would be, because it's an all or nothing, is to pass a resolution in favor of purchasing it all, and then work with the Forest Service to actually sell the portions of it that should probably be better left in private hands.
So, I mentioned preservation of access to public lands. That is my primary interest here. This is a very well-used area, especially going west of Highway 15. Right now, people are essentially obliged to park at the side of the road on private property and cross Highway 15 in an unmarked location and use a trailhead that drops down behind a guardrail of the highways. It's not either attractive or particularly comfortable. And then you are following a path roughly parallels the creek of, I'd say, uncertain legality until you get to public land. I've used that trail many times. And if the Forest Service purchased this land, it could construct a proper trailhead, a proper pull-out parking area that was not on private property, and properly maintain the trail and mark it so that there'd no longer be any ambiguity about whether you were allowed to use it or not. It gets you to the Sapio, what is the name of the trail? The Spring Creek Trail, which is gorgeous. I've backpacked on there a few times. And that trail takes you all the way to the confluence of the Sapio and the Gila. Other reasons that I support this proposal have to do with conservation, not just preservation of public access. The Sapio Creek is a potential habitat for the Gila trout. The Gila trout is a prized fish for many anglers. People come here to fish for the Gila trout, and the more habitat available for it, the better. It's listed as #1 priority for conservation by something that I'd never heard of called, it's in the resolution.
Natural habitat.
Let me get it exactly right. The New Mexico Crucial Habitat Assessment Tool. So someone has ranked areas of the state in terms of whether they're crucial habitat or not. It's not the same as federally listed critical habitat. It's different. But this is one of the #1 areas for acquisition. And I feel that is true also for the Meadow Creek area, that residential development in that area would be inappropriate and potentially environmentally harmful in terms of kicking up sediment and potentially having septic tanks near a creek, a tributary to the Gila.
So the proposal is this then?
The proposal, came to me from local trails advocates, and we have a number of groups, actually, and none of them is claiming to represent, to be the group that is mainly pushing this. They all seem to, want it to happen. And the Trust for Public Land has been the group outside of this area that I've communicated with, and that seems to be most promoting this acquisition. There are other folks who worked with the Forest Service to acquire the Bear Creek property that just happened, which again in my book was an excellent acquisition, right? You have these inholdings in these crucial areas in the forest that prevent public access, in that case to Bear Creek as it drops down towards the Gila.
And so have they taken this directly to the Forest Service?
I believe they've had conversations with the Forest Service, but I can't tell you that for sure. But they would. I mean, that's the point of this resolution, is that they would go to the Forest Service and they would be able to say, not only do we think it's a good idea, but the Grant County Commission backs it.
So what this does is it's asking us to support the sale of private land into public land.
Yeah, of course not to force it, but the owner is wanting to sell it already.
The owner is wanting to sell.
That's my understanding, again, as an all or nothing deal.
Well, sometimes when you have all or nothing, you know what you get.
Of course.
Nothing.
But that would be up to the Forest Service to negotiate, yeah.
Last 9 months. it's
And
all
if
or nothing.
that's their strategy, if the Forest Service says, no, we don't want all of it, they can negotiate it.
Yeah, we wouldn't have anything to do with that negotiation.
Are there any
Just-
private entities that want to buy it and maybe spin off the portions?
My guess would be that if there were, that would have happened.
Because I'm not accustomed to being for turning private land into government land.
Well, I have some of the same reservations, and yeah, so I'd like to know who owns this property, if that's available. You said it's a private individual, probably?
Or an estate.
Okay.
And, I
We
think,
can find that out.
yeah, I don't think that's inappropriate.
Okay, yeah, no, I understand.
Is this imperative? I mean, is there a time deadline on this, or is this something that's going to take a typical federal government timeline to do this? Can we do some due diligence?
Yeah, the request in here is that they put it on for federal 18 and 19 both. And I would read that as indicating that there's time.
Okay, because, yeah, I mean, just being able to see it today and being asked to vote on Thursday without some information, I think that might be a little quick for me, if you don't mind.
Don't
I
mind
was going
it.
to ask for time to do some diligence. One of my concerns is where you have these groups, not to mention any names, they come in and buy a piece of property with the intent of peddling it to the federal government, and I'm usually opposed to those types of arrangements. If this is different than that, then that's a plus for me. But there's probably some other things I'd like to think about.
I wonder if you'd explain the basis of your opposition to that, because that may well be one way this happens, right? The Trust for Public Land is exactly that kind of group. They often purchase land with the intention of trading it or selling it to the federal government, never for a profit, because the government will only sell it for, buy it for what you...
My only experiences with the Nature Conservancy, which some of the local folks were really trustworthy, but I think some of the national folks, it was took it out of their hands. So they brokered a deal where some land went in with the idea of more access to the public, and they even made an agreement with the landowner where there would be more access, and A, B, C, and D would happen. And I was curious that the landowner wasn't more on top of his game, and now, after the fact, he's come to several of us and saying, hey, they said this, this, and this. They didn't live by any of it. And I just want to tell him, well, you should have read the agreement, not listen to what they said. So, yeah, if that makes any sense.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
And just to add to Commissioner Billings, it's not only that, but it's a ploy to remove taxable assets from some private land and some forest permits that we've talked about cattle with Raul. Obviously, Billy and I both come from cattle backgrounds. He's still in one. So having cattle removed from the county is not in our best interest, in my opinion.
And I don't believe that's the case here, but again, we can find that out. I don't believe the current use is grazing.
And I like the idea you proposed about it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Maybe the Forest Service
Right.
can sell some of
Right.
that.
I too am concerned about the removal of some of this land from potential commercial tax-generating property. I think some of this would be ideal for further...
For more little toads.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
or places like that, because that is a great place for all those kind of things to happen.
Although the owners have had a tough time getting it going.
Well, and I would just say that in addition to the things that Harry mentioned, part of my interest in this is in the idea that having a formal trailhead and better public access would keep people in that area longer. So if you're going to the Cliff Dwellings or you're going to Lake Roberts, it creates additional opportunity for people to stay in that area longer and participate in those businesses and potentially participate in any new businesses that would be created in that area. So just wanted to put that into the conversation.
So just to clarify for me, the beige, I'm looking at this map. The beige
That's currently private land.
currently...
As is the
so
orange.
the orange is private also, but the orange is owned by this person, and that's the portion that they're asking us to help them with. Okay.
So then the idea would be that all of this would go back to
And
private.
there's some of that I totally understand. I mean, do you think this guy... Because I know in the past, the Forest Service also traded in holdings for our holdings.
Yep, and that, I mean, again, we're in the position of supporting a general proposal
Okay.
and of leaving the details to the Forest Service. I think we can tell the Forest Service, this would be our preference, but we're not going to be able to dictate that, clearly.
Because if we had somebody with a ranch on the edge that wasn't as critical habitat, now usually you don't get 1-to-1 acres because this has got running water, this has got a lot of things, but you go 2-to-1 or something,
Yeah.
you may get some other rancher to say, you bet, I'll buy that, and then I'll split this off into federal, and
Exactly.
you give me this over here.
So just to...
More deals to be made than just with the Forest Service.
Exactly. And to go back to Billy's earlier question, for me, the value of a group like the Trust for Public Land is they're a private organization, and they can do a lot of that dealing way more flexibly than the federal government. And in fact, that's what they do sometimes. And then they turn over the logical pieces to the public. In this case, I can't represent them, whether that's their intention or not. But I know that they have done that in the past.
All right. Any other questions? Let's move on.
Moving on to the Grant County Health Care Claims Board. Item O, approve, disapprove September 2017 health plan claims, previously known as the Indigent Fund, in the amount of $34,223.91. There are 6 claims to Healy Regional Medical Center in the amount of $32,831.41. There are 2 claims to Healy Regional Medical Center Ambulance Service in the amount of $1,392.50 for the grand total of $34,223.91.
So, this is a lot less than the last one, obviously, which is good news, which just means that we had a lot fewer claims to the detention center, but we have one really big one.
Can you talk about that? I don't think you can because of HIPAA.
I can't discuss that. It's
You can ask her when you go into her office, but...
Well, I'm not really asking about HIPAA stuff. What I'm asking is, are we just...
I think you're going to get an answer.
I don't think I'm gonna. That's okay.
All right.
Well, my only comment is, again, just not to be redundant, but to be redundant. If, on that $23,000 claim, if there's anything that we can put our heads together and figure out how not to have that happen again. And I realize a lot of this is beyond your control.
It's exactly what I addressed before, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay.
There's some things that you can't control, and
I guess I'd like to know more about why Medicaid doesn't cover stuff like this.
all right.
Moving right along.
All right, so that's the end of the agenda. We have elected official reports down there, but I don't think that's right. We usually do that on Thursday. And if anybody wants to, they're always welcome to say whatever they want.
No, that's supposed to be on. Oh, no. I forgot, yes, there are some that have requested elected official report on every agenda, so.
Oh, does anybody have
I was thinking we missed it.
Because
but
we don't have any county reports, that's part of the
The
problem.
county report should be on this agenda. Which
And we're gonna have them
It is,
anyway.
if you look at the... So, yeah, we did mess up. I mean, I know that there's some of you that have requested elected official reports on every agenda, so my apologies for that. Under the work session agenda, there are county reports
Oh, I'm
and
looking.
commission reports.
That's the problem.
You have me confused.
I've been up here, down here, over here.
Maybe we're all on these computers next month.
Yeah, that'll be true.
It's going to be really bad, because there'll be no one to keep
It's gonna be 10-hour meeting.
So you had me confused. Thought I messed up.
No, you didn't mess up, I did. All right, so we got county reports. Taffy left. Are you gonna give a hospital report? Well, that's what we're, huh? You can tell us what she said? Oh, no, come on. This ought to be in it.
Thank you.
Are you working at the hospital again?
No, thank you.
So you're a volunteer reporter?
I'm here for something else and happened to sit next to her and she had to leave. So I'm offering you, she says she's sorry, that she had a 10 o'clock and she didn't, I have to admit, we were both working on, when you put both agendas there, we were working on the actual regular meeting agenda where it said that she was the fourth one. Anyway, she said she wanted to make sure that you knew that you all were invited on October 19th to the Gila Regional Medical Center's Cancer Center Open House, which is very interesting. I'm doing this. 10 to 12.
meeting
Time. I'm sorry?
It's during
Yeah,
our...
I realized that. I looked at that. It's between 10 and 12, and the doctors from the UNM Cancer Center will be there to visit with, if anyone would like to go. So,
Are you going to go attend for us?
no, sir. I'm going to be here at your meeting. No. I just have, can I ask a quick question, Mr. Chairman?
I don't know who answer.
I'm confused on the agenda as well. So, the pending opioid litigation, did you already do that? I got locked out.
That's an executive session.
Okay, so that's something that you guys
That
still
we'll
have to
do,
meet?
and if there's any report, we'll talk about it Thursday.
Okay, I'm just here to support that, thank you.
Okay.
And your doors were locked, so... that
The
was-
doors are locked?
They were locked, and so when I walked outside to get a phone call from a physician, I couldn't get back in.
You're not getting the hint?
Thank you. And Ms. Arias did say if you had any questions, she would be glad to come back, take a phone call, or whatever, so
Thank
if
you.
you would like me to call her back, I'd be glad to.
So she's not going to be on the agenda?
Yeah, she will be here, absolutely, I apologize. She said she will be here on Thursday.
So,
That's so kind of you to step up and do this and let us give you a hard time.
so where does she think she's on the agenda on Thursday?
Yes,
Right there, on number 4?
We put her up top so she wouldn't have to...
sit around and wait for us.
The meter running. I didn't even look at that. Yeah, I got it.
That's why I was surprised to see her today.
Same here.
I was like, what?
All right. Thanks, Susie.
But she just wanted to invite us to the event that is at the same time as the meeting she'll be at. on Tuesday.
Absolutely. She's told me, I will tell them I will be there Thursday. Hopefully you will put her...
Starts at 10, right?
I'm
The
sorry?
function starts at 10?
Yes.
Okay,
So
so
she'll
we'll do
put
that
that in.
first.
Thank you. Can I tell her you'll do her first on the agenda? Do the
She'll be fourth.
4th, right. Thank you.
Thursday.
It was so pleasurable to be at your meeting
First
today.
thing won't take long.
Thanks, and we'll try to keep the door open for you next time.
Remember, I support the opioid litigation. Thank you.
All right. So, Scott, do you have anything on the convention center? I see you back there. Come on up.
Share a little information with you. We had threw some numbers together for you. There's been some people asking some questions. Just give you an idea of how many events we've had, how many people have the estimated number of people that have come through the conference center. Then we've also had some discussions about how many events we've had for free. I know you might want to see that, and so I put that on there. And the percentage of free versus the public events. I went ahead and basically what you've got there is us starting at May 1st, going through in this year. These are things that have been scheduled. And I want to put things that are scheduled already for 2018. So you have an idea what those are. There are some large events that are really good, like in August, you can see or September, you can see where the number jumped up as far as people coming through the conference center, 4,500. That was because of the Gin and Mineral Show on Labor Day weekend, which was a large thing. And we used that same number again in 2018. We're looking at about 3,500 people attend that show. Hopefully we'll grow that. It went really well. The vendors enjoyed it an awful lot. They were very pleased, and I think we'll see the numbers go as higher with vendors and attendees. Every time we have an event out there, we get really good response. They appreciate very much the things we do, and they appreciate the building itself. It's just a matter of getting more people to come out and use it. About the only concern we've really had where we've got the issues has been the alcohol for private functions. One of the things that has happened, the town of Silver City went ahead and approved Q Southern Bistro to get a full dispense license. If the state goes ahead and has one for them to have, that gives us a third option for private parties. And I think Anthony will probably look very favorably about doing that. And so that will take some burden off of not having as many private parties. I know in a discussion that Brett and I had, we talked about weddings. They want to have wine or something at the receptions. Those are private events. And under the law, there's only 2 places in Silver City that can do that for us. One so far hasn't really seemed like they want to because they'd rather you go to their facility. And the other, just unless it's a really, really large group of 400 or 500 people, don't see it as being viable for them to make money on it. So we're hoping that maybe having a third choice there will help with that. We don't have a whole lot of bookings for December, and I think some of that is when we tell them that a private party, right now we just don't really have a source for them to have alcohol. They go somewhere else. But that's something that we'll continue working out and try to do something with. But, I will tell you, like next Thursday, we've got 5 different groups booked in there. Most of it's for training stuff. We start at 6:30 in the morning, opening up for one of them. We won't get through till about 8 o'clock that night with the last one. So we're seeing good usage of the training rooms. We're seeing more and more people coming in. As you can see, the things for 2018, weddings, we're seeing more and more wedding receptions wanting to come there. Even though they can't have alcohol, they like the facility. They like everything they see. It's a wonderful place, and it's going to even get better. This Wednesday, we have the contractor from Albuquerque coming in. He'll have the samples of the acoustical tiles, the colors we looked at, and those will be chosen, and then we'll go ahead and start booking a schedule to start construction on putting those acoustical tiles up, the audio-visual equipment, the speaker equipment, the sound systems. So once we get those into place, I think we'll see even more people wanting to use it.
There's a way to weight the number of free events by people. In general, are the free events considerably smaller?
Yeah, for the most part, you're talking about 15, 20 people. And I'll just use the sheriff's department. They do an awful lot of training there. They're there today. They're practicing using I've forgotten what it was called, a little meter for alcohol. So everybody's doing little shots of mouthwash and then checking it out. But it's always fun whenever they're doing taser instructions. But they make a lot of noise those days. But somebody asked the question about some of the other folks that use the training. The National Forest Service, they utilize it a good bit, but those are paid. They pay for those. Right now, what we have is just the county departments using it for free. We do have like the 4-H, whenever they do their archery. We've had some of the legislative committee hearings, those don't pay. There's events like that we get approval. We don't give it away. We always make sure through the county manager's office what should be paid for and what shouldn't. But we wanted to go ahead and just give you an idea of the usage right now.
So just to clarify that, most of these 68 events that were free were county departments, whether it be the Extension Service or the Sheriff's Department or whomever, or state legislative.
Right.
So that's I don't know if we're going to change much of that.
Yeah, the state legislative, that was one that we had to definitely ask about because it wasn't something we originally had talked about, but it makes sense, I guess, to do that. We have had some other state agencies that wanted to use it, and quite honestly, when they were told they had to pay, they found a way to do it. Some of the times, like we've got one coming up later this month that we had to do a purchase order, so once we have the event, we'll send another invoice, and with the purchase order number, it'll come probably 3 or 4 weeks later than the event, but we feel certain that they will pay, and we're working with all the different entities as much as possible.
So, a group that wants to have a wedding reception or some other kind of event that wants alcohol, what are their options in the county other than the convention center where they can have alcohol?
Well, there's all different kinds of places they can go. The Manhattan, some folks go over there. I know they've had some of the gun shows over there as well.
The Manhattan's closed.
Hanover Outpost.
Somebody's, I think, is reopening it, or has reopened something over that way.
It's the Hanover Outpost.
Oh, the Hanover, I'm sorry, Hanover, thank you.
Why wouldn't they have to follow the same rules the county does at the convention center, i.e. have somebody licensed in there?
Because they're in the county, and there's people that will picnic a license in the county. In the city currently, the liquor licenses are all owned by one individual.
Well, not only that, but here, because our facility is within the city limits, only businesses who have a full dispense license who are within the city limits of Silver can act as that liquor agent. There's not very many that have a full dispense license. Most of those being like Walgreens, Albertsons, folks who really don't tend bar. The only two that we have right now that we can presently go to are the folks who own the Flame, and then WN Enterprises who owns Wrangler. If Anthony down at Q Southern Bistro gets his full dispense license, that'll give us a third option, and probably he will more readily look at coming over and doing events than the other two.
Since we're on this topic, I know Little Toad has done this, at least for Western, and I believe they've done it for other groups, and they're increasing their selection of distilled spirits. Would they not be an option?
They don't have a full dispense license. Now, what you can do if you're a public event, the options are much greater. If it's a private event, it can only go to a full dispense licensee. And that's the difference. The license that they have, they can do public events, just not the private.
Okay. Thank you.
We still have the option of getting the governmental license ourselves.
Which sounds... You want to explain that to us sometime?
So it's the same license that the university has, where they have their functions now, and that's why Little Toad can do what they're doing. It's the same license as the city has at the golf course. It's the same license Las Cruces has at their convention center, Deming has at their convention center. So you just have to decide that you want to move to the jump of being liquor license holder.
What's the liability associated with that?
I'm sure there's plenty.
Somebody drinking too much and going to the red light in front of Wendy's and getting T-boned. And then you just, it's, who you have tending the bar, how you regulate the inventory and everything. I mean, there's a large liability with liquor.
You would rather go the other way if possible, I think.
Well, another thing is marriages are dangerous enough. I don't think people should enter into that inebriated, but...
Generally happens afterwards the vows have been spoken.
Thank you very much.
Anything else? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize. Kathy threw me all up, having to talk to her stuff.
threw you up.
I wanted to, for Mr. Trujillo, Tony Trujillo and myself, he couldn't be here because he had surgery on Friday, but we wanted to offer our full support for Charlene Webb for her contract. She's an unbelievable county manager, and we all very lucky to have her. I think we should definitely believe her. We give her our full support. She's the best in the state. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on with county reports, I guess we can move to Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commission members. Before I begin my report, I also would like to support the sheriff's comments on the Narcan. I'd like to give you a little idea of what we're trying to do at the detention center, because we're also required to do that. To answer some of your questions, ma'am, it is an unfunded mandate. It was required by the legislature when they passed the law. They didn't attach any funding to provide for law enforcement or anybody else to pay for the kids. So when we went through the training, what we're going to do at the detention center is we're going to use the nasal spray as opposed to the injectables for the security issues at the detention center. They do have a nasal applicator. It has 2 doses. There's 2 nasal applicators in the kit. What we're going to do is you can use one of the you can provide one of the nasal sprays. It's designed to counter the opioid reactions. So to answer your questions as far as, how do you know if you use it? If you come up and you determine that you think that there's someone that's having an issue with the opioids, then you can go ahead and administer that, and then you can wait. In the training, they told us to wait no longer than maybe 15 minutes at the longest, then you can administer the second dose. After that, if you don't see any kind of reaction time, then you immediately start CPR. And what we're going to do, what we're trained at the detention center, we're training officers to use just the compressions as opposed to the regular CPR with the breath. We're just doing the compressions until we can get a medical person up there, and then they can start bagging the individual if they need to for the oxygen. The Department of Health has put on the training, and I had put in for 25 to 50 doses. Hopefully we'll see if we get those, but I'm also waiting for our medical provider to come on board, our new medical provider to come on board, possibly provide us with the training for the rest of our employees over there at the detention center on Narcan itself. Okay. On my report for this reporting period, item number 1, the policies are still being reviewed. Item number 2, Grant County Detention, we currently have 5 vacancies. 2 applicants have been offered a position with the detention center. The applicants, the 3 remaining applicants are currently, we're going through the application process and accepting applications for the 3 remaining vacancies. Item number 3, the assessment remained the same. Item number 4, on our training update, Sergeant Galito's monthly training report, you have 8 more officers who completed their OC refresher training, and Sergeant Galito continues to work shift coverages and district court transports, and also CYFD court hearings. Item number 5, on the inmate support program, this month's meeting, we addressed a wraparound refresher and updates from other committee members. There's a meeting tomorrow that I'm going to attend with one of the MCOs. I believe it's Molina that's coming down to determine if there's any more changes or if there's going to be any changes as far as one might be affecting the inmates while they're incarcerated in the facility and their coverage with Medicaid. Item number 6 on the recognition program, we're waiting nominations for this month's Employee of the Month. Item number 7 on our detention statistics, the average daily population for October 12th is 83, 2 less than last reporting period. High population males is 67, 6 less than last reporting period. High population females is 16, 11 less than last reporting period. And currently for October 12th, 2017, there were 83 inmates incarcerated in the facility, and that was one less than booked in the facility last month. Item number 8, the monthly arrest totals. Silver City Police Department at 77, Grant County Sheriff Department 33, New Mexico State Police 32, Baird Police 5, Santa Clara 5, Hurley Police had 5, and New Mexico Police had 1. We do not have any inmates currently being held for any out-of-state facilities during this reporting period. And item number 9 on our detention, on our transports, we had 29 district court transports. We had Division 1, we had 15 Division 1 transports. Division 2, we had 3, and that was all for the courts. Our medical transports this reporting period total 9. The total number of transports equaled 56 as compared to 65 from last month, and medical transports were slightly lower during this reporting period. We have 30 probation violations, 1 parole violator. Inmates awaiting transport to another facility or rehab, total 2. Total inmates charged with warrants currently in the facility are 57 during this reporting period, and the special management inmates on October 12th total date. That's my report, sir.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mike? You do?
You used to append several pages of numbers, and the only one of those I really cared about was the unconvicted. There were several that had to do with unconvicted. Are you intending to include that information in future reports?
Yes, sir. What we're doing, again, I was on my last report, we were working with Arconics, with the person at Arconics, and I do have some if you'd like to look at it. What we're having to do with that particular CJ5 report is to have to do 3 separate reports in order to have all the numbers show, kind of match up for that particular report. And if you'd like to, sir, I'll show it to you after the meeting, and I'll show you what those 3 reports consist of. I'm going to see if they can't continue to work on that, so I don't have to be providing you with 3 different separate reports for that one CJI-5, but I can show it to you after the meeting, sir, if you'd like.
And do you think the prospects are pretty good that you'll be able to streamline that?
I'm sorry, sir?
The prospects pretty good that you will be able to streamline that and not have to do 3 separate reports?
Oh, we're still working on it. We're still working with the text sister to see if they can streamline that report. And
okay.
That's what I'm working on now.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Yes, sir, you're welcome.
Okay. Anybody else? Earl, what you got?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. We did finish with the low water crossings. We got the footings poured. So we're pretty much done out there. There's a few things that I want to do out there through the whole subdivision when I have some time. But other than that, everything for the contract's been done that we had out there. We did finish hauling up there at Bear Mountain. I used some LGRF money to kind of help those residents up there since they got that firehouse up there, in case there is a fire where they can get down the road, because during the winter and during the monsoons, we can't get up there at all ourselves, so it would help them out even to get out of there if they need to. Other than that, we've just been kind of cleaning up after that last big rain that we had. We had a few roads that got washed out, nothing major, but other than that, it's just business as usual down there.
Okay. Thanks, Earl. Any questions, bro? No? Okay. Thank you. Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So going back to, I'll start at the airport. So we're in the process of putting that generator in for the the terminal and the runway lights. With the hurricanes that we've had, the generators have set us back a little bit, so we're working on that. And going to the rental car, so the FAA published their annual employment calendar for 2016, and so we saw a 37% increase in ridership. From 2015, there was 3,900. 2016, there was 5,400. So that's an increase right there, and that's why Rebecca has been working with Boutique to try to find ways, because we are getting those calls, even I'm getting those calls to trying to find ridership back into town, and whether we have rentals and so forth and so on. So she's working hard with that. Western Mexico Telephone has completed the installation of the cable, the fiber cable to the airport, so that's going to help also with internet service as well out there. DWI program, Cindy will be here next month to give you kind of an update on where she's going with her program. Correcaminos, Kim will be here Thursday to answer any questions you might have. We are in the process. We did have some money left over, a little bit, to try to put up a couple of more bus shelters. We're just working the logistics with where the bus stops are. There are currently stops there now, but they're just a pole that says bus stop. So we're trying to get those completed. We have some over at the city yard, and we're going to continue to work that as well. She's also working on final numbers for fiscal year 17, which ended in this October, and she'll be bringing you those numbers as well. On the maintenance side, I guess the fairgrounds, the fair was successful as far as we're concerned. We didn't get, there was too many complaints that we saw major problems out there, but we're going to work on it. Jason's doing a good job of trying to make sure that we get ahead of that real quick and any other events that are out there, so that we don't have those issues coming up. So we had a kickoff meeting with the Energy Control yesterday for the energy audit that's going to be taking place, that the county you guys have approved. That will start today and go for the next couple of days, getting them around our facilities. There were 7 of them: this building, Silver Street, the courthouse, airport, and road department, to look and check lighting and also HVAC units and that kind of stuff, to make sure that, where our energy savings would be once they get through it. They're also going to come in front of the commission and give an update probably in November. On the fire side, pretty quiet. Other than that, I don't have anything else unless you have any questions for me.
Any questions for Randy?
Thanks, Randy. Do you have any feelings about the essential air service in the federal budget? We continue to hear that it's under attack.
Well, I mean, Rebecca's continuing to look at that, and it's right now, that's what they're talking about. If it happens, it would affect us dramatically. Obviously, our fuel sales is strictly jet fuel, even though we did have an increase in low lead in the last month. But yeah, if the changes are made and saying what they're going to do is maybe taking some of those fundings away, if not all, then I think Boutique goes away. But until we get some, their fiscal year just started, obviously October 1st, so we'll see how they get through Congress with some of these, some of these decisions they're trying to make as far as essential air services.
I guess I was looking for maybe some insight, whether you've heard something that we haven't seen in the press.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Brown, I talked to Rebecca about that a lot, and she's just monitoring as best she can, and she tells me, before I come to these meetings, I make sure that I get with my directors, and if there's anything that the public needs to know, or you as elected officials, I want to bring that to you for sure.
Okay, thanks. And then on Correcaminos, we've had considerable interest in the DOT's recommendation that we skip the on-demand service and switch to a flexible fixed route. Do we get any update on where that is? Are we trying to negotiate with DOT on that?
Well, what we're trying to do is figure out ways, yes, in a sense, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Brown, we're trying to look at ways that we think that we can minimize those, whether it's, we talked about it last month, about recreating routes to justify those people that might be affected by the change. So it's still in the very early process. It was a recommendation, and we want to work, of course, commissioners on the board, and we'll make sure that we bring all of that information to her in our quarterly meetings as well. But yeah, we're in negotiations of trying to figure this whole thing out before, and again, I know that a lot of stuff got out there before anything was even decided on, and we learned a lesson there, and we're not going to make that mistake again.
Okay,
So I'll make sure that we keep you informed on what's going on.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Barrow, so in the last quarter meeting, we talked about this extensively, and they have mapped, they have the capacity to look at exactly where passengers are being picked up. They've mapped that. There are, in the flexible route option, there would be some people that would not have access to service, but they live considerably outside of a reasonable route area. But Kim is pretty certain that we'll be able to cover nearly everyone who is currently getting on-demand service with the flexible route service.
Well, that's good to hear. It's not great for those few people, but nearly everyone's pretty good.
And I think Randy's right. It's a work in progress, but I think it's more hopeful maybe than it appeared originally.
Thank you.
Okay. Is that it for you? All right. Next, I guess we'll move to Misha. Misha?
We just had a few short comments. To-Casa update, the dry-in is almost complete. Wysong is working on the windows. Nemersco Gas has installed the gas line, the transformer pad's been poured, and W&M Communications will meet on site with the contractor White Sands on the 23rd to schedule the communications installation. The Santa Rita Fire Station, ASA Architects is currently working on encroachment easements with DOT. The dirt work's been complete, and the easement from Chino for the installation of the power line has been sent to P&M. And on the conference center sign, both the digital and A signs have been ordered, and estimated delivery is 2 to 3 weeks.
That's it. Any other county departments? Anybody else want to say anything? Okay, go ahead, Steve.
In my rush to get Melanie up to speed on this, I tried to get you the most current information. Yesterday I went through and did a sample for her, and I failed to update it, so I'm going to, as she starts giving you the report, I'm going to give you the new corrected.
So did you want to give the report today instead of Thursday?
Yes, because I'm not going to be here on Thursday.
Okay, that's fine.
That's the
So this is your first time in live fire, right, Dawn?
Isn't it supposed to be my limelight?
Yeah.
That's right. And I did put a C on the back of these, so in case you mix it up with that.
So these are no good.
The first one is, just a second.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, the first sheet that's one-sided just shows a corrected date from last month's report, and it does reflect 16 August of 2017. Last month's report, that date was wrong, so that was a correction. On the two-sided sheet, we have for the tax year, the final report for the 2016 tax year, and the total for the general fund, which is inclusive of non-residential and residential, is $4,813,600.47. We've collected for debt service $673,780.87 for a grand total of $5,487,381.34. That is the final report for the 2016 property tax year. The change in the report from August to September, the grand total collected was $9,568.59. If you flip this page, let me go to the bottom, your total receipts for all sources from July to October has been $4,618,959.73. If you turn this form over, we have the report for the beginning year of the 2017 tax. So far collected, we have for the general fund $38,816.14. Debt service collected is $5,714.77 for a grand total collected of $44,530.91. The bottom report is the same exact figure, and it just shows that that money has been collected as of end of day yesterday.
Okay, thank you, very good job.
I apologize, I did neglect to tell you, on the 2016 property tax year, the percentage collected for the year was 92.85%, and so far collected for the 2017 tax year has been 0.75%, 0.75%.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Melanie or Steve?
So essentially what we're saying is that in the 2016 tax year, we were unable to collect 7.15% of the property taxes owed to the county.
Correct.
And that is worth $420,000.
Correct.
And so, can you just give me a brief overview of what we'll be doing to try to collect that? Or is that we're just not going to try to collect it? How does that work?
This is partially why we requested the delinquent tax position that we have not been able to get for the last 7 years. We're doing everything we can physically do possible to get that all collected as much as we can.
So what would that person do to collect this money?
They would concentrate on the delinquent accounts.
Yes, but what would they do?
They would go through the delinquent accounts list. They would actually go to the location, try to make contact with these people. We do it a little bit as we can, especially with mobile homes, which is the biggest part of the mobile home thing is that we get to keep all the penalty and interest and everything. On the regular stuff, it just goes to the state. So we would go and try to contact personally the owners. Part of the issue is that we have a lot of out-of-state ownership of a lot of the delinquent accounts. So, it's just trying to make contact with them and try to figure out why the issues are, and so that's...
So you don't have an actual plan about how you would do that? You just have an idea of how you would go about it?
Well, like I say, having a person dedicated to that all the time and that wouldn't be 100% of their time, but it would still be the focus of their job duties.
As I have a collection background, and with collections, the more streamlined you can get, the dedication you can show to those accounts that are past due, call them, contact them, work something, get them on process. It's a lot easier if there is a constant contact with it. When everybody in the treasurer's office is separated with collecting payments and so forth, they can't show the total dedication that the collection efforts require, and that's something that will take time, and a lot of it is the mobile home. And if we had a collection officer, that person could also look at possibly putting liens on them and possibly even repossessing them. Right now, that is not out there, and people are aware of that, so people who own mobile homes don't actually come to the forefront when it comes to paying their taxes.
So, So I have a few different questions about this. What percentage of this dollar amount is attributable to mobile homes?
I don't know the exact amount, but I'm in the research that I've done before, I would say probably 60%.
Okay. How many of those are habitable?
We don't know because we haven't been able to go out to check them out. And I mean, those that we do know that are local in town, as part of the process, we go out to those homes, and most of them are rentals, unfortunately, and the owner is not there. We ask the people to give our cards to the owner of the property and contact us, and some do, some don't, most don't.
So you think it's about 60%, and you're not sure how many of them are habitable?
I can give you an exact amount, next time around, but I can't.
So from a collections point of view then, what would be, given the scenario that you said if you had a collections officer, what would be a reasonable percent of this, given the circumstances, to expect a collections officer to actually collect? What would the return on that investment be?
I would think to start out it would be slow at first, but once we could show more dedication to that, I would say about 50% of it. At least right off. I mean, without looking at numbers or anything, the dedication there is to a collection officer, the end result is a lot better. Because you can get out there, make yourself known, people will work with you. There are people that have hardships and stuff, but if you can get out there and work with somebody and make it like you're working for them to help them, a lot of people are willing to step forward. There are situations where accounts are seriously passed due, and once you get to a serious point, it's a less collectible. And those ones would be the ones that we wouldn't count on them coming current.
No, this relates to your line of questioning, but I feel that in past discussions, mostly with Mr. Armendariz, it's become clear to me that we don't have all the tools the state has.
Right.
What I heard just now is that maybe we have more tools as regards mobile homes than I had understood.
And it's a new thought. There is the treasurer in Hidalgo County has started the process of trying to repossess mobile homes. We don't want to take control or possession of a home because we don't have any place to put them. The liability of utilities or property damage is heavy for us, and we wouldn't want that. I do know the treasurer in Hidalgo County has done one or two, and it is a process that he's working through, and he's trying to get with others so we can look at doing it without creating such a large liability to us. But for the treasurer's office employees to do that themselves, it's too much for them to do and maintain their positions right now as well.
Is there a service that does that?
That's what I was going to ask.
And there might be, I don't think we've ever
We would
looked
have
into
to
it.
hire.
We would have to hire somebody.
Right,
But is there a service out there that...
I wouldn't want to
that you
contract with
with?
anyone. I wouldn't want to personally, because
You wouldn't want to what?
contract with someone else to do our job.
No, she's talking about the actual removal.
I'm talking about the repossession piece.
Well,
I just want to go down on the record, I'm against repossession 100%. So-
Yeah, well, part of the thing is that it is a process.
You're taking on all the liabilities, and all you just took on, plus if it's contaminated, all of a sudden it's yours. If it was a meth lab, if it's got any type of contamination on the land, no. I
And
got
that's
no
why
interest
it's-
whatsoever bringing that into the county.
It's a work in progress with the treasurer in Hidalgo County, and he has a smaller county and knows a little more, so it would be more in-depth here, but it is something he's looking at. When you have mobile homes that don't have consequences if they don't pay, they don't pay.
Okay, so I want to go back to where I was heading just briefly, because I heard your interest. Unless we develop those tools, as I understand it, we're really dependent on the state. After 2 years, the state gets the
The
account.
state will not mess with mobile homes at all, because they have no skin in the game. They get nothing from mobile homes.
So the
We get
mobile
the
homes
penalty.
stay on there for an indefinite period, basically. When you show us the 10-year reports then, a lot of the reason those don't get to 100 is because the state doesn't take the mobile homes?
Well, just to clarify, any taxes that are over 10 years old automatically drop off at the end of the 10th year. So a good share of what we're dropping off are mobile homes.
Right.
But there's still 10 years out there on a lot of mobile homes. So, we can do everything we can to try to collect them, but, I mean, other than getting the system going, and having the tools and the personnel to do, that's...
Okay, I'm wanting to create a realistic understanding of the situation. It's not exactly a plan, as you said, but even with a dedicated person making contact and managing to convince the person that they're helping, I think we're in a difficult situation, that you don't have the ability to, you don't have the hammer that you might have in collections. We don't put liens on, we don't repossess. So even if we did hire that person, maybe we'd see an improvement due to the repetitive calling and making a connection, but we still wouldn't have some of the tools that I think would be crucial to doing that job, maybe the way it's done in other collection agencies.
It's just all in if you want to accept this 92.85%
Right, the 7.1
as the reality and go from there. I mean, I've always been a very utopian thinker, and I would love to have 100% collection. I mean, realistically, I know that can't happen, but I do feel we could do better than, and I mean, I wouldn't say that we would get 50% of this overnight. If we had a system in place, it may take beyond my term to get to that, but it would be something, it would be a goal to work towards.
Well, my concern is that what we would recoup wouldn't pay for the position. So back to the idea of, I'm not sure if someone asked about contracted services, but to your knowledge, and you said you wouldn't want to do this, but is there anyone who contracts this kind of thing out?
To my knowledge, there isn't anybody that would, I mean, not for taxes.
Okay.
I mean, if it was a loan for like a mortgage company,
Yeah.
I mean, they have their own
Collections.
people.
So, thank you for all that information, I appreciate it. I just have a final question. Can you tell me how the 92.85% compares to the other counties in the state?
Well, not really, because not everybody's figures are set. As far as I know from speaking to the other treasurers, we're probably in the top 5% of the counties as far as collections go.
You're saying that we have, that 92.85% is in the top 5% of the best collections, that we have an accurate collection. Okay, thank you.
So we would be, like Mr. Brown just pointed out, the best or second best in the state.
Right.
That's probably about as good as we can do.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Well, I think the mobile home issue is obviously the sticking point here. Like I said, there's no hammer. And I think the chairman made it pretty clear that the hammer's not really an option. I can understand. I think it would be a huge liability issue. Absolutely.
Besides that, throwing women and children out of the house, no thank you. Not my job. All right, anything else, Steve? Okay, thank you. Do any of the other electors have anything to say before we move into commissioner reports? Commissioner reports today?
I'm going to save mine for Thursday.
I won't be able to give mine Thursday because I won't be here, so I wanted to thank those responsible, and I don't want to name names to leave somebody out, but for the progress that we made with, that has been made with the insurance. It looks like that the employees of the county are going to have a superior coverage, and the county's going to also save the taxpayers money. It almost seems too good to be true, but I'm glad it came along, and I want to thank Mr. Radesky and County Manager Webb and those others responsible for that. Also, I'm optimistic about car rentals at the airport, and finally, we've been exactly 3 months without service at Gila Regional, and there's a cost associated with that. There's the human cost. Sorry, what? Yeah, I'll get to that. Because, yeah, thanks though. So there's a human cost that's incalculable. Secondary to that human suffering cost of the 3-month shutdown is the financial cost to Gila Regional. I think that is calculable, and I think that the citizens of Grant County deserve an answer to what that cost is at some point. It's certainly in the millions. And my question is, what happened to the seamless transition that was promised here in this room, actually? Some of I'll just say some, are still publicly blaming the former provider for not providing the transition. So, if the former provider, New Mexico Cancer Center, was responsible for the transition, and I'm skeptical that this is the case because I've reviewed the document, my question is, are they going to be held accountable for damages, both human and financial? And I'm told that is a possibility, but I think someone is responsible and they need to be held accountable. The citizens are demanding it. Now that the damage has been done, it looks like that indeed has been pointed out on October 20th. Some services are going to resume, but if you allow me a second, this is from Gila Regional's press release. It says on October 20th, Gila Regional Medical Center Cancer Center will again be offering medical oncology and chemotherapy services to cancer patients. I'm skeptical that that's the truth, because that's not what I'm hearing from patients who are trying to schedule appointments. I think that perhaps the marketing director, or I'll just leave it at that, should try to speak a little more accurately, is what I'm saying. I don't think chemotherapy is going to be offered on October 20th, from what I'm hearing. And if I'm wrong, then I stand corrected. So I'd like to go on the record as saying that, because I'm pretty confident that there will be no chemotherapy services to cancer patients on October the 20th. I've just heard from too many people who can't get appointments, who have been told to continue going out of town. I've heard from the providers up there that that's not the case, so I don't know why they're putting it in their newsletter. I guess that's it. I would like to say thank you to the caregivers at the Cancer Center. I think they've borne the brunt of some bad decisions that were made. They've really suffered through this, and I do look forward to the point in time when the Cancer Center does offer full services again. I think it will be soon. I commend those who have worked hard to get it restored. But still, looking back at the loss, I think someone needs to be held accountable, and we can hopefully they'll continue to decide who that is instead of just blaming one side blaming the other. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner? I do not have a report today either.
Just a follow-up question based on Commissioner Billings mentioning he would not be here Thursday. Is that correct?
Right.
And do we know about Commissioner Ramos? Okay, so we'll have the 4.
You only need 3.
Right.
Done it for years.
Just checking. Okay, thanks.
All right, so that being said, we are going to have an executive session today in accordance with NMSA 1978-10-15-1H. The items to be discussed are disposal of real properties, limited personnel matters, that's the contract agreements with the manager and the attorney, and the pending opioid litigation. Those will be the only things we talk about, and we will adjourn directly from there with no action taken when we come out. So if I can get a motion to move into executive session.
So moved.
Second. So motion second to move into executive session. Will you take the roll call, please?
Commissioner Brown, are you aware that you will be entering executive session?
Yes, I am.
Commissioner Billings, are you aware that you will be entering executive session?
Yes.
Chairman Caston, are you aware that you will be entering executive session?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Edwards, are you aware that you will be entering executive session? Yes, thank you.